Hello and welcome to the first module of the Final Fantasy Z trading card game. In this series, I'm going to explain how to play the game from front to back, try to give you all the information. So, this first module is going to be all about the structure of the turn and some of the game zones, just general gameplay, things like that. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. You begin your turn by drawing 3 cards. If you're from the Dragon Ball Z player base, you're very familiar with this structure. You have a planning step that begins directly after your draw step. This is where you play your setups and equipment cards. Like here, I've drawn the setup shell. I could play that during my planning step. And then from there, you have a decision to make. You can choose whether to enter combat or not. Now, when you enter combat, your opponent draws 3 cards just like you did. So in this instance, I played 2 setups. I only have 1 card in my hand. My opponent's going to draw 3. I'm at a disadvantage. I'm probably not going to do that. So moving on, I'm going to talk about things that happen at the end of combat because there's a couple nuances to Final Fantasy that are different from the Dragon Ball Z card game. So at the end of combat, you have these cards called summon cards, and they will discard. So we're going to send this guy to the discard pile because combat just ended in this theoretical game. And then also, you have cards that enter the floating effect area. This is a big one here. So this card specifically, it gives you an effect all of combat after you play it. Floating effect, cards with endurance gain 1 endurance. We'll talk more about endurance in the next video. But I just want to talk about floating effects. So at the end of combat, your floating effects, no matter how many of them you got, they are going to go to the removed area. So this is a great time to talk about you have a couple different play areas. You've got your hand, which is here. This is the cards in your hand. Your deck, these are the cards in your deck. You have your discard pile, your removed area. And then from there, we're going to go back to the turn structure. So we ended combat. If you chose not to enter combat, you're going to discard down to 1 and rejuvenate 1 card. If you chose to enter combat, at the end of combat, you can discard down to 1 card. Let's just draw 3 just to simulate this here. So I would discard down to 1, and then combat ends, and it's going to go to my opponent's turn. And then they are going to repeat the exact process that I outlined here. I think that gives you a general idea of the structure of the game. Now, for deck building purposes, I'm going to kind of shift gears here. You can have between 3 and 1 character. And this deck has 3. So, the advantage of having 3 characters is going to be that you have more effects, where a deck with 1 or 2 characters will have less effects, but they deal more damage with their attacks. Let's give you an idea of what this looks like. This Blade Beam card, this attack that I have in the screen here, it has this cross sword symbol at the bottom left. And Cloud also has this cross sword symbol, but let's actually flip it over here and give it to Zack. So Zack has this cross sword symbol as well. So Zack, when he performs this, he's in a party of 2. Synergy will give him a +1. And let me explain this real quick. A party of 3 has a +0 modifier to the cards that they have synergy with. And then a party of 2 gives you a +1. And a party of 1, let's just pretend these guys aren't here. These gals. And so now, Cloud's by himself. This attack's dealing 6 damage. Because it has a base of 4, and it would be +2 because Cloud is by himself. Zack, on the other hand, he's got Rinoa by his side in here in this instance. So he's going to get a +1, so he's only going to do 5, and then when you're in a party of 3, you just deal your base damage. So that kind of explains synergy and how it works with dealing damage in the Final Fantasy card game. I do want to talk quickly about experience. If you're coming from Dragon Ball Z, this is going to be most similar to Anger. So some cards will gain experience. Let me find one here real quick. Just talk about this game mechanic. Yeah, so double slash here. Double slash says gain 1 experience. So from there, you're just going to add 1 experience to Cloud. When he hits 5 experience, let's say he's already used his power. When you use his power, he's going to tap over like this and be on his side. You gain 5 experience, you level up, take your experience off, and Cloud is ready to go again. He can use his power once again. So that's experience and leveling up. Certain cards in the same instance, like this card says gain 1 experience, certain cards will say gain 1 limit break. We're going to just tap this limit counter. If you're playing in real life and not with Octagon, you can add a dice to your limit break card here. And every deck has a limit break, and it sits out in the field just like your characters, building up your limit break points until you can unleash it. And every limit break has this cost associated with it to play it, which I'll get more into cost in the next module. How you win the Final Fantasy card game is by decking out your opponent, making them lose by losing all of their cards. Now, some characters will have an alternative win condition. If you're familiar with the Dragon Ball Z card game, that might be similar to MPPV or Dragon Ball Victory, and in the future I might even add some other alternative win conditions. So I think this will give you a basic understanding of the general turn flow and how to win, and in the next module we're going to get into the nitty-gritty on some of these cards and talk about how to use them and what to do from there. Thank you.